Have you ever found overcoming objections to be a dangerous tightrope? If so, you're not alone. So what we've done is we've boiled down all of the most common objections into 7 basic objections. And if you've been in sales long enough, then you've heard pretty much all of them. And what may surprise you is exactly how we actually deal with them. In this video, I'm going to show you the 7 easy tips to overcoming objections in sales that you hear constantly. Check it out. So before I get into my list of 7, we need to understand that the key to overcoming objections is not to actually overcome them, but rather to avoid them from happening in the first place. Because let's face it, once the objection has happened, it is an indicator that you're already in trouble. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to actually go through each of the most common objections and show you first how to actually avoid them from ever happening. And in some cases, I'll share with you some ideas to, once you've actually heard it, how you can then deal with it. But it is so key that we understand that first we want to avoid these objections from ever happening. Number 1, your price is too high. This is so common amongst salespeople. I hear this all the time. I'm fighting price. And the challenge is that once you have heard this objection, you're in trouble. Because what it means is that you haven't shown enough value in the sales process to justify the price that you're sharing. Now, there are a lot of ways that we can skin this cat, but let's just think about first, how are we creating value in the conversation? My question to you always is, are you solving a challenge that is important enough to your prospect to then justify the price tag of your service or offering? So we need to really think about, are we throughout the process leading up to some kind of a price reveal or a budget conversation, are we leading to a point of showing real value? Are we asking questions to really understanding if they were able to solve this challenge, what would it mean to them? What would be the upside value to them? Understanding the real cost of the challenges that they're dealing with is then going to justify the price that you're dealing with. So once you're in this place of your price is too high, you're in trouble. You really are. You want to avoid this from happening in the first place by really focusing on the value. But once you're actually there, my suggestion to you is, if you actually hear this, is to not respond with some kind of a justification, but to really dig into understanding why they're saying that in the first place. So if they say your price is too high, the response should be, George, I really appreciate your saying that. Help me understand why you say that in the first place. And now you want to dig in. You're going to notice that all of these objections, you want to be responding with questions, with pauses, taking your time, and not justifying or defending your position. Number 2, this isn't a good time. Now, depending on where you hear this in the sales process, is going to alter your response and the feedback that you're taking from that point. But if you're hearing this later on in the sales process, it means that you haven't done a good job up until now to A, ask questions around understanding the importance of making this decision, and B, that maybe you haven't fully understood what their decision-making process is looking like and not entirely sure what the timing of this decision ever was going to be. And so we want to really dig in earlier on in the sales process to understand how important is it to solve the challenges that we're discussing. And if it is, then obviously timing is going to be less of a factor. I find that this is one of the easiest ways for prospects to blow off a salesperson, to basically just say, oh, it's not a good time. Can we revisit this in 6 months? Because salespeople will very often accept that. If you do hear this response, by the way, this isn't a good time. The approach, of course, again, is to dig in with a question. Is to say, okay, I appreciate you saying that. Help me understand why you're telling me that, right? Or you mentioned challenges A, B, and C were really important to be solving, and now you're telling me it's not a good time. Help me understand that, right? You really want to dig into that. Number 3, you should discuss this with my subordinate. You know, we've all heard some version of this, right? We've called high up in the organization and we've had a conversation, and then they say, you know what, this actually isn't a good conversation for me. You should really talk to my employee or my director of, or whatever it is. the way we approach this is first by avoiding it in the first place. And one of the challenges that we have, let's say you're talking to the CEO or a chief marketing officer, right? If you're having a conversation that is too into the weeds and is about the quality of service that they have from the current provider, or is some other low-level thing, like basically like a small challenge, the CEO or the CMO or whomever, if the level of conversation is seeming kind of down in the weeds, there's going to be a little alarm bell going off in their heads that's going to say, you know what, it sounds like this person, who may be very nice, is going to have a much better conversation with one of the people below me, because that's more their domain. And so what we want to do is, when we're having that conversation with a higher level prospect, we want to make sure that we're talking about concepts that they care about, that are important to them. And so most people in a position that's high up are going to care about things like profitability and revenues and issues that really are big picture issues. So don't get too into the weeds here. And of course, if you do have this happen to you, again, you want to ask some questions, get some feedback. Say, you know what, Karen, I appreciate you saying that. Help me understand why you say that I should be discussing this with the person below you. And now you're going to get some feedback, which, by the way, you can then use in the future and understand where you really missed it. And by the way, sometimes digging into that can lead you back to another place to continue that conversation. Number 4, can you call me back next month? This is one of the most common blow-offs that salespeople get from prospects. And we just want to be ready for this. And so if you've gotten this, it means that leading up until now, they have not seen enough value to discuss this conversation with you right now. And so we really want to, before we ever get to this, we want to be at a place where we're really digging into what they care about. We're asking about the challenges. We're asking about, what they've done up until now. We're understanding the value of those challenges or the costs of the challenges, right? We're really getting to a place where they're going to say to themselves, you know what, this is the time where I should be having this conversation. Now, if you've done that, or you're just getting this and you're saying, this doesn't feel entirely justified, the response always is, and this is a little bit gutsy, but if they say, can you call me back next month? This is how we always teach our clients to respond. You know what, George, I really appreciate your telling me that. And having done this for a long time, very often when people say that to me, it's just a nice way of saying that they really just don't want to talk to me. Or they're just hoping that, you know what, this is going to kind of fall apart. I'm not seeing enough value. I'm not really interested in having this conversation. Is that what you'd say is happening here? And it's going to take them in one of two places. Either they're going to say, you know what, yeah, it's not really, and you can dig into that. Or 2, they're going to say, no, actually, this isn't a good time because this, and this. And now you want to dig into that. Keep that conversation going. It's almost like a choose your own adventure. And depending on where they take you, now you're going to go down that hole of really understanding that. Oftentimes, that approach will get you back on track to the point where you don't have to call back next month. Don't accept that stuff right off its face value. Number 5, we don't have the budget. We've all been here, right? We don't have the budget. If you're getting to this point, one of two things are happening. One is you're talking to a prospect who is too low level to really have access to the budget. Companies have budgets. It's just a question of, is the person that you're speaking to the right person who actually has access to this budget? So I want you to really think long and hard about whether they're really the ideal person to be talking to. Reason number 2 that you're hearing this again is it goes back to what we've said over and over and over again so far, which is that they have not seen enough value in what it is you're solving that would cause them to then have the budget to invest in your solution. So let's break that down. If they don't see the value in the challenges that you've discussed, or it doesn't sound important enough, or your service is kind of topical but not critical, then yeah, you know what? They probably don't have the budget. So you've really got to have those conversations to get deep into what they really care about and solving big problems. If you've gotten to this point and you feel like you've done a solid job up until then and they say we don't have the budget, same response as most of these, which is to really dig into it. So you say, George, I appreciate you telling me that. Can you help me understand why you say that? Responding with a question. The data shows that when you respond to an objection with a question, you're much more likely to actually effectively overcome that and dig into that. And regardless of what they say, now you want to dig into that and keep that conversation going and understanding what's going on. Be tough in these moments. Don't just back down. Number 6, I'd like to think this over. Oh man, we've all gotten those think it overs and it's really painful. Now, there are times when it's just reasonable, depending on the importance of the decision or where you are in the process, maybe it's reasonable that they think it over. In that case, what you want to do, of course, is really schedule a clear next step. So you want to make sure that there is a phone call or a meeting, a follow-up meeting in the schedule that's really coming out of this. If this particular objection is catching you off guard and you're saying to yourself, well, we've really been going on and it seems like they're just kind of holding off or slowing this down, now you have to consider a few things. One is it really just a no disguised as a let me think about it? In which case you haven't done a strong enough job up until now for them to see the value, for them to really believe that your solution is going to be something that is important to them and is going to solve their challenges. So that's something that we need to have solved up front. If, though, you feel like there's been a strong conversation up until now and you're caught off guard, again, the response, as always, is, well, you know what, George, I appreciate your telling me that. Help me understand why you're saying that. Help me understand what you're going to be considering as you think through this decision. You want to get into what are they really concerned about. And by the way, sometimes you can ask questions like, is there something that you feel like I missed or something that you feel like we're just not really solving as a result of what I've presented so far? You want to get it all on the table. You want to understand what you might have missed. And then you want to dig into that. And then, of course, you can get the conversation back on track by going back into that and then, of course, presenting or adding a solution or whatever it is that you have to do to solve this. A good salesperson is going to be able to avoid a lot of these think it overs simply by being really strong up front around the challenges and the value, and then you're not going to get nearly as many think it overs. Number 7, I need to run this by some other people. This is our mistake. If you hear this and you weren't expecting to hear this, it means that you messed up. Because we should know this before we're ever presenting a solution. We should know that they were planning to run this by other people before we ever got into that presentation. And that's simply a miss on our part because we didn't dig into their decision-making process. During your discovery process, you need to be understanding what is their decision-making process. The question isn't, are you the decision maker? That's an annoying question and puts people on the defensive and is likely to lead to them saying, yeah, I'm the decision maker. Instead, what you want to be doing is throughout that discovery process, you want to be asking questions like, well, help me understand what's your decision-making process typically like for this kind of a decision? And digging into that and really understanding who are those other people involved. So that way, before you get into that presentation, if there are going to be some other people that should be involved in this conversation, they're there for the presentation or they're looped into this conversation. So that way, you don't present it to one person and then they say, oh yeah, you know what, I've got to run this by my boss and 3 of my coworkers, right? And you had no idea that that was coming. You've got to dig into that before you're ever presenting. If you do hear this and it's really caught you off guard because you have dealt with those other decision-making questions, then again, the same response is, okay, well, help me understand who exactly do you intend to be talking about this with? And help me understand what's that decision-making process really look like from this point forward. I very rarely hear this issue with my clients who have done a good job up front because this is completely avoidable. But sometimes, people get squirrely for one reason or another. And what you want to do, of course, is connect yourself with very clear next steps. That you say something like, George, okay, that sounds great. It sounds like you need to talk to some other folks. Would it make sense for us to schedule another meeting where we can all put our heads together and I can share some of those ideas? Right? You want to really be the person who's presenting and you want to be in control of the schedule. So the question I'm always asking is, do you have your calendar in front of you? Right? Let's get something in the calendar to hold this together. Of course, you wouldn't say that, but you want to make sure we're holding this together. So there are the 7 easy tips to overcoming objections in sales that you hear constantly. So I want to hear from you. Which of these ideas did you find most useful? Be sure to share below in the comments section to get involved in the conversation. And if you enjoyed this video, then I have an awesome free ebook on 25 tips to crush your sales goal. Just click right here to get it instantly, or somewhere around here. Get it instantly. Seriously, just click right here. Also, if you got some value, please like this video below on YouTube, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking my face, which is probably right about here, to get access to a new video just like this one each week.